Yes, we're here. It's Monday. Good evening to you all. Welcome to the latest recording of the On the Ball podcast live edition. I've written a script this week. You'll be delighted to know. Edition 123, which is great. I'm going to have a drink of water from my athletic mug. If you think this means I'm going to plug one less story tonight, you might be right. You might not be right. Hope everyone's well. Top of the morning and the Monday to you all. Loads of fun stuff to talk about. Obviously, we're going to be in absolutely ecstatic form and mood because, football, 4 goals. It's like 4 years ago all over again. So that's exciting. And obviously, I will now take this moment to share the podcast with the world on the Facebook, which is exciting. But I'm guessing you're probably saying, hang on, Michael, who's on it this fine evening? Well, great question. Let me show you. We have, there they are. Steve Sanders is there. The Christmas tree is gone this week. I did notice later on that the Christmas tree was still in the background, but it had all the lights taken off it, I think, last week, which is very moody. Deserved to be mentioned, and we didn't mention it. So you can talk if you want, Steve, sorry, as we talk about your Christmas tree.
Oh, it's a really boring story, though. It wasn't
deliberate. Brilliant. I want to hear it in every detail.
So I did one of those things where they take your tree away for you, but it wasn't being taken away until the 12th. So take the lights down, obviously, because you can't have them up after the 6th. But I didn't want it sitting in my front garden, so I just had it up with the lights not on. And you'll be pleased to know it was taken away from the front garden on the 12th of January. There ends the worst start to one of these we've ever done. And
well,
you can mute me again now.
The question is that better than me sitting there looking at my phone trying to share the podcast? It might not be. Might be, might not be. And we're not going to have that story every week.
I like that as soon as I started the anecdote, you were like, this is an opportunity. I don't actually need to listen to any of this. This is an opportunity to get on Facebook.
If anything, Steve, you've made me look great. So,
that's what I'm here for.
That's good. That's good. I was just going to share it, just sharing it wherever I can, which is sort of how I work, really.
Have you introduced the other 2 guests yet?
Not yet. I was about to do that. We've got Ryan Livermore and Jon Hare, who are here and looking resplendent. I'm not going to unmute them. I'm going to save the gold for when we go live. Sorry. In fact, say goodbye. See you later. That's the power I have on this podcast. And I generally abuse it. What I also have the power of is choosing your comments, although so does Steve, in fairness, and he's much better at it than me. So please do comment. Have a word with us. Say hello. Talk about football. It's always useful. Ask your questions. Do what you wish. And we will do our very best to go through them if they're not, killed by people, which seems to be happening at the moment. So, if you've got anything that you want to say that is useful, please do. We'll get the we'll share stuff and we'll talk about things, and it will be lovely. Very communal. We're a community podcast here. Everyone loves a community, so that's great. We'll do that. I haven't got any particular topics. What more do you want? Football's great. Let's talk about that. And with that said, I reckon we're good to go. So in that case, let's go to good and talk about the good performance that we got. Maybe we'll get one from the podcast as we go along. Right. I feel like I'm ready, he says. Let's find the music and let's kick off this wonderful podcast. I have a feeling this could be the best thing we've ever done. Enjoy it. Let's go. Yes. Hello. Welcome, everyone, to edition 123 of On the Ball. Notice that 4 and 0 are missing off that edition number. On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that didn't realise there was still a wheel actually attached to the boat, although, of course, it could be a different vehicle. I'm Michael Bailey. I cover the Canaries for The Athletic, and I hope this finds you very well. On the way, Wagner bar. That's got a stick. Magic McLean. Pans with flashes, and being sent once again to Coventry. We will work through all that and more with our guests, who are Norwich numberwang chief at NCFC Numbers, also known as our very own Steve Sanders.
Hi, Michael.
We also have OTB's official random quizmaster generator. It's Ryan Livermore.
Evening, Michael. Evening, everyone.
And last, but my goodness me, definitely not least, sensible soccer creator and huge Norwich City fan to boot, it's Jon Hare.
Good evening, everyone. Hey.
What a great lineup. What a great time it is to be alive. This is the moment we've been living for 2 years. I cannot wait. It's amazing. How exciting. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you for anyone listening and watching or whatever you're doing at this very moment. We do appreciate it as always because you've been through the tough times and here we are in the best of times. But we're not going to talk about that just yet because first of all, I've got to say, Steve, how are you?
Almost as excited as you are, I think. I liked how in your video verdict on Saturday, you were very much about not getting carried away. And now here we are getting thoroughly carried away. I think that's what we need to do. I can't wait. I genuinely can't wait to get going because it feels like for so long there's been something like, but what about this? What about this? Everything was great on Saturday. So yes, I am great too, by extension, of course.
I mean, in fact, yeah, it feels like the video verdicts are like my professional face, slightly less professional.
You saying these aren't professional?
No, I haven't even mentioned the podcast. How dare you, Steve?
Okay.
But you know, the writing is obviously slightly more professional than the video verdict because I get paid to do it. And then there's this, which is whatever it is.
No further comment needed.
It's whatever it is. Sure. And you know what? It's made the better by having other people on it, especially you guys. Ryan, already looking forward to your quiz. But before we get to your quiz, we're doing a quiz later. In case I didn't mention that, I meant to write that in the things to look forward to. I'm very much looking forward to the quiz. But Ryan, aside from quizzing, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm trying to keep my feet on the ground after Saturday as well. But it is a bit hard to not get carried away, isn't it? Because it was a bit too good, if anything.
Yes, if anything, it was too good.
If anything, it was too good.
Exactly
So
right.
I'm looking forward to dissecting it and then obliterating any hopes and dreams we have from here on in.
That's the way to do it. That is definitely the way to do it. I feel like no one's ever said that this podcast has ever been too good. Maybe tonight's the night. John, how are you? Apart from a bout of Patrick Bamford injury.
Oh, well, apart from my Patrick Bamford illness, it sounds quite good actually, but it just means I can't play football for a while, which I don't do very well, so it's probably good. I'm happy. I think it's taken us a while to process where we are as a club, you know. I saw the last 3 games at home, Michael. I saw you a couple of those. And it was so abject to watch it and so depressing, again, to watch this, you know, the whole team running up to a forest of legs of defence because we spent half an hour to attack and then we can't get through them and then letting chances in the other end. And now we've got hope. And actually, I think for us as fans, it's like a reset. So we had the disappointment of relegation last season. Then we had the disappointment of being at the top of the league and throwing it away in fantastic style to be 11th and like 15 points outside the promotion zone. But now if we think back, and I was trying to think how many seasons it was because we'd done promotion and relegation, we're actually kind of back in the season Alex Neil took us to the playoff final now.
Yes,
and now we've got
that's
to
exactly
think
it.
like that season again. We've got to go back there and go, we're used to these seasons. We had 15 of the bloody things back to back at one point with a little gap. That's where we are. And guess what? We're near the playoffs.
We don't even need to. We don't. I'm going to just cut you off, John. We don't even need to talk about where the season's heading. We already know it ends in promotion via the playoffs at Wembley. It's simple. Correct. In fact, as I said on my hot takes, we can still get 96 points. That's all I'm saying. 96. I'd have to win every game, obviously.
Why not?
But you know, who's to say that's not possible? A lot of football history is to say that's not possible. But that's not the point. Anyway, the wonderful guest this evening. Just talking about how they are completely through the prism of the football just says the passion and commitment that this podcast has. And I am up for it. Tonight, I might not be next week, but let's not worry about that. I am wearing this, which is obviously of no use to our listeners. So maybe Steve, could you describe what I'm wearing?
It's a beautiful Borussia Dortmund, what looks like it's a black and yellow as opposed to yellow and black training top, I want to say, with like yellow stripes down the arms. I'm terrible at describing what clothes look like.
This is a good point. It's been borrowed to me by Zeke off of Fresh Shirts UK, who I basically said, "Oh, can you lend me some nice shirts to wear during like pods and stuff?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So he's got an amazing collection. Fresh Shirts UK. You can catch him on all the Instagrams. Zeke's great, lovely bloke as well. And he was like, "Oh yeah, borrow that." So but now I literally went into the bedroom, put it on, and said, "Oh, I'm definitely going to wear a Dortmund shirt because you know David Wagner and everything." I've got no idea what shirt this is, which year. Or, I mean, John, you've obviously put together all of like Sensible Soccer, so I'm feeling like you might know, but I mean, it probably wasn't.
I don't know
solely
the
your
era
remit.
of that shirt. I thought it might have been a tracksuit at first, to be fair.
Well, no, it is. So I'm pretty sure it's a shirt. It might be an away shirt because you're right. It is predominantly black with
Jester-like arms.
I think it's like 2004 maybe, but quiz for today. If anyone knows which era this Dortmund shirt is, who's watching live, obviously it's no good for the audio listeners, but if you're watching live, let us know, and the prize will be all of our respect. It's a bit sort of fluorescent yellow, a bit neon yellow, but it's got Continental as the Die Continental as a sponsor, and it's a Dortmund shirt, so what's not to be cool? That's completely cool. And I'm obviously wearing the collar up because it's that sort of a pod tonight. Speaking of which, I reckon we should crack on. For those of us watching live, you can get in touch with us with your comments and questions throughout. Please do so. We'll go through them as the podcast goes on. We haven't got a particular subject tonight, so throw at us what you want. We'll see if it sticks. But if you are listening retrospectively, of course, and you still want to get in touch with us, you can absolutely do that with your story, your comment, anything fun you want to share with us. The email address is twitterkers, Twitter, KERS @icloud.com. Doesn't matter when you send the email, we'll always read through them. Right. Well, in that case, I think we should crack on with this week's headline act. I wonder what it will be. Yes, that was better, wasn't it? You may have even sought out the highlights for once this weekend. Norwich City won 4-0 at Preston. It could have been far more. And there was a lot to love about how it all happened in David Wagner's first game in charge, if we ignore the FA Cup. So, in which case, I would like to know, starting with you, Steve, what was your favourite thing about how that all played out at the weekend?
My favourite thing, well, I think it was the intensity that they approached as a team that we approached that game with, because that's what, there were so many things that we were better at, and I'm sure we'll go through as many of them as we possibly can. But I think just seeing that hunger and that energy from a group of players who, for whatever reason, don't appear to have displayed that, or have done it in stages this season, but seem to have lost a little bit their way a little bit on that side of things. The way we took the goals, the different way, the fact that one of them came from a free kick, another one was from a long ball forward, another was a kind of slick move on the break, and just the fact that the season now appears to be completely reignited. I want to start off with an apology. I may last week have said that David Wagner was a long-term appointment and we might not be looking at finishing in the top 6 this season. I may also have said that Teemu Pukki could be phased out as he's out of contract at the end of the season. So of course we would win 4-0 and Teemu would get 2 goals.
Yeah.
So yes.
I mean, I would have said there's no need to apologise for things you say on the podcast, Steve, because I can't remember what I say, and probably people are still waiting for apologies for some of the stuff.
Well, that's all very well, Michael, but I did think 2 minutes after I'd said it, what a ridiculous thing to have said, and naturally,
certainly in respect of Teemu Pukki, and in fact, it was going to be in my things we were not going to talk about, the complete Teemu Pukki slander of the last few weeks. I don't know what people are thinking. Like, the guy is still quite clearly the best striker at the football club, and by a distance. And I thought that before the weekend. Anyway,
to counteract that, and because just to show how much I still love Teemu, I put some money on him being top goal scorer in the Championship this season, just because I felt bad. I had to wash off the guilt. Last night, I thought complete U-turn. But I'm a fickle Norwich City fan. What can I say?
Fair enough. Well, that could be one thing that happens off the back of this miraculous event. Who knows? Ryan, how about you then? Your favourite thing played out the weekend, or the bit of it?
I really enjoyed the fluidity of the formation and how it looked like a 4-2-3-1. Then it became a 4-4-2, then a 4-2-2-2, and then a 2-2-6 at points. It was in the best way all over the place. And it was so refreshing to have 2 wider players in Max and Dimmy who are finally being utilised to how they should be utilised. And that is really taking up those spaces in the final third and really stretching the opposition. I know we're going to talk about Kenny at some point, But it's very weird to me that in all the midst of Dean Smith going and asking who's going to benefit from the revolution of that, it was very weird to me that Kenny McLean seems to have been the best player the last 4 games that Dean Smith's not been in charge. But without him in the team, Norwich do not win the game on Saturday. For me, it's as simple as that. Because what he offers with his range of passing and picking the ball up in from the centre halves is something that's been missing for the 20 plus games prior to that. I'm going to plant my feet firmly on the ground and say, as wonderful as it was on Saturday, and make no mistake, it was excellent. Particularly, there were players like O'Neill, who I thought really shone for the first time in ages. Ryan Lowe said after the game for Preston that he didn't think it was the shape, as you said in your video verdict, Michael. Make no mistake, it absolutely was the shape, and Preston got it very, very wrong. He spent all of his post-match comments saying how they tried to push their team higher up the pitch, and they just couldn't do that because of the way they set up against Norwich.
I mean, I do feel if it wasn't the shape, I don't think after 3-0 he would make 2 substitutions and immediately change the shape.
Yeah,
it clearly was the shape, certainly in part.
This is the thing, and I really enjoyed how fluid Norwich's play, particularly on the ball, was in the final third, to the point where the opposition did have to change the whole setup of their team with half an hour gone. And look, it's not going to be that easy for the rest of the season, make no mistake, because teams are only going to suss Norwich out more from here on in. But listen, as a starting point, it's pretty damn good, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Well, it's a good chance to plug my piece on Kenny McLean's evolving role and David Wagner. You can read that on The Athletic, which is interesting. One of the things that stuck out for me, apart from a conversation in the pod WhatsApp group about Kenny McLean trying to lob the keeper from 40 yards or getting it out of play. But what struck me was the time that Kenny McLean was given on the ball for basically the entirety of the match to pick his own passes. And some of them were brilliant. And, Kenny's certainly a very good enough footballer. You can be a very good enough footballer to pick good passes if you give him that amount of time. So yes, as is the case with all football all the time, when you start looking good, teams notice that and try and stop you. So that's quite obviously a key thing going forwards. But no, maybe I'm not going to embrace the caveats tonight. Maybe we're just going to go for the hell of it. And if you're sitting there watching or listening and thinking, oh my gosh, where's the realism gone? It's all right. It'll be back next week. Don't worry about it. It's fine. John, I was going to bring this on to everyone, but it seems like a nice moment to bring it on to you. I mean, is there a player that you sort of took away from that game? Maybe the Blackburn game under David Wagner? I don't know. But is there one that you're like, yeah, that works?
I've got to join Steve first in saying I made a big mistake on Saturday morning by saying Dale was the worst player in our squad.
Oh my gosh!
It's like confessional here.
Was correct on Saturday morning, but on Saturday afternoon, I mean, that was his best performance for us in my eyes. And obviously, it's to do with having players around him. He's a smart player. He needs people close enough to utilize him. Otherwise, he's got no one to play in. I think more than an individual, obviously Kenny had a really, really good game, as you said. It was good to see Timo actually play back and look happy. But I think the thing that I really liked was, as I said, those last three home games, we've been just playing against forests of big defenders that we can't pick our way through because we've been so slow getting there. And we've got about 2 guys in the box and they've got 4 big guys in front of him and 2 guys behind him. And then it's a waste of time. If you look at the first 2 goals, there are 5 or 6 players in the box each time, playing small passes. The first goal from Timu Pukki, the second goal from Kieran Dow, it was about volume of players. And what I did notice was particularly when Kieran Dow scored his goal, the defenders were marking the 2 attackers in front of him. And that's why he had space. He had like a good 5 yards in front of him to work the ball into position to take a shot. It was a brilliant finish. But that extra man, if you've got more attackers and defenders and over-occupy them, then you get free players. And then they can take the shots. That's how Timu scored. And it was how Kieran Dow scored. So I think that was my standout. And what I loved most of all was the togetherness of the squad after they scored. They really celebrated together. Like they'd been waiting for this moment even longer than us. And remember, they're the guys on the pitch, knowing they've got to face the fans and booing for like the manager leaving or whatever. Imagine living through that for these last few months. The World Cup in the middle was probably a great holiday for them. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know any particular. I think like the guys have said, I think Ano had a good game because the formation suited him. Kieran Dowd, both those guys massively benefited. I thought Dimi Giannoulis was really, really good. You know, I mean, Max is always good. I think, personally, I've always thought Max is our best player for a long time now. But Jimmy Giannoulis was really, really good.
Yeah,
Maybe
he would be the one for me. I must admit, I think in these two games we've seen something that we never really saw from him under Dean Smith at all.
you know, Sam McCallum, unfortunately, hasn't been that great in the last few games, and it's clear now he should be our number one left back. I think the person who suffered the most was probably Josh, and I think his role in this squad is to be a new Marco Stiepermann, at least defensively. He's got the ability to break people down from the front, to be aggressive, to find the ball. He hasn't got the passing of Marco, but he's got a better shooting. So it's finding that's his role, I think, that David Wagner wants for him. I'm just guessing, but that's how I'm seeing it.
We've had that conversation, and it was interesting, actually, the Preston game, that there was one moment where Temu was ahead of him. It was such a brilliant counter-attacking opportunity. It may have even still been goalless at the time. And Josh tried to play the pass, and it was short, and it was inaccurate, and it was cut out. And I was like, see, that's the problem. That's why you can't play Josh there. He just cannot execute that pass. And then you see the pass he played for the third goal, was it?
Yeah,
which
is second assist to the third goal. Yeah.
It's brilliantly weighted, perfect lines. There wasn't loads of room to play it, so you know there was a bit, but not loads. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, I've sold you short there. So I owe Josh an apology for that one. That's a brilliant moment. It is interesting, Steve. I don't think I've ever seen so much weight being put on this connection between players and supporters. I mean, Paul Lambert used to go on about it all the time, but I never remember seeing him physically out on the pitch, telling players to stop walking back to the dressing room, touching them on their backsides to get them to move closer. You know, they were applauding the fans, but Wagner was like, no, you need to applaud them 10 yards further forward. So he literally shuffled them all up, you know, and he took a step back and he let them do it. And I don't know, there's some photos where the players are doing it and they look a bit like, you know, a bit awkward possibly, but you kind of know why everyone's trying to do it. I get it because they've just won 4-0. So, you know, it could be as good as it gets, but obviously hope's not. And that's not the theme tonight. The theme is that it's 4-0 every week, 96 points. We're going to win the league. But the point is, I guess, that it's right 100% that is being pushed. You know, that impact is being emphasized because it's needed. But it will still have to come with the actual genuine side of it. You can't just keep pushing that. You know, you can't keep pushing them towards an applause if it finishes 1-1 at Coventry.
No, of course not. No, I mean, I don't. If we'd lost 4-0 to Preston, I don't think David Wagner would have been pushing the players towards the fact. It might not have been safe to have done that, to be quite honest, you know. But yeah, I mean, we'll never really know how much difference it makes. But obviously, over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, we've maybe had the best of times and the worst of times that we've had as Norwich City fans. One of which was under a manager who very much was all about that. You know, the good times were under Farker, and he was, you know, on the pitch with the Olays all the time. Dean Smith went completely the opposite way. It was terrible. Whether there's a connection there, I don't know. But I would have thought, you know, as much as we've talked about the relationship between the board and the fans, surely a part of the thinking of this appointment was to get somebody who could unite the fans with the team again. I mean, we have won 1 in 10 at Carrow Road, which is normally a fortress for us at championship level, and that must be in part down to the atmosphere there. Right? You know, that can't be a coincidence. So yeah, I mean, they were really nice. You know, in terms of what did I enjoy, actually, perversely, that was one of the most enjoyable things, just seeing the players and the fans kind of start to spark that bond again that we know some of these players have had previously, and that got me thinking about what could be in the future under Wagner. So I do think it's important. I do think it does it make a difference to what happens on the pitch? I don't know, but it certainly makes a difference to the fans. And I think as we are all fans, it makes a difference to our enjoyment of watching Norwich City. So I hope it's here to stay, and hopefully Wagner can find a slight alternative to Farker's Ole type thing. But that's up to him to work out.
It was genuinely like he got, well, probably, I mean, not much happened in the second half really, but there was a prolonged period of me sitting there watching the game thinking, wonder what he's going to do at full time. Is he going to do a load of fist pumps or whatever? I don't know. It'd be very interesting. And as you've kind of said as well, John, lots of issues that you've seen Norwich have in the recent games were at Carrow Road. So, they're not, teams are not going to be as open as Preston on their own grounds. They're even going to be less open than that when they come to Carrow Road. So it'll be really interesting how it all plays out. I'm here for that. We're all here for that. Absolutely. I'm not sure if there's much more in the actual game. The goals were lovely. Anyone have a favorite moment? I'm so glad that what actually I thought I saw did actually happen, which was Kenny McLean back heel at the start of Norwich scoring their fourth goal, because that was back. The only thing that would have made that better was when Kenny McLean ran about 80 yards, but then his left-footed shot straight at the goalkeeper. Because Kenny, that was your moment. But he got enough plaudits anyway. Ryan, was there a pick of the goals or pick of the moments?
Oh, good question. I really enjoyed the fourth goal. Not least because at that point the match had essentially become a basketball game and was going back and forth. And not only did it sort of calm things down a bit, but it was really nice to see Teemu Pukki doing Teemu Pukki things, what we've not seen him do for the last 2 years or so, really, to as much of a degree. He absolutely sent Fernandez to the shops, really, and it was a really, really cute finish as well. And it's one of those things where you just sit there going, if we've got this guy back for the next 20 games, then that is the difference between 7th and 6th. That's the difference arguably between 3rd and 6th, and by some miracle 2nd and 3rd. But that's a long way off.
No, there's 6 points. I'm not letting it go.
I look at it, and I honestly think if they can keep this up, look at where they are in 10 games time, and if they are within single digit points of Sheffield United and going into the last 10 games of the season, you honestly do not know, because there was a moment 3 years ago where we very nearly faltered. There've been so many times where you get to the last 40 plus games of the season and teams just decide they're going to lose out of nowhere, and you never know what's going to happen. So I think you honestly cannot count your chickens in that situation until you have if it's mathematically it's done. I know it's a very dull, but it's true. It's the championship.
Steve, just on numbers, I mean, what? Because I would love Teemu to get to 100 goals. How far off is he putting you completely on the spot now?
Well, he's on. I was thinking about this over the weekend. So he's on 88. So that's
only 12.
That's another 12, and we have 19 games left. Plus, let's be honest, if he scores, say, 10, there's every chance that we end up in the playoffs, so that could be another 2 or 3. So then you're talking about 12 in, let's say, max 22, which I think if we're on... let's be honest, that is a ratio that he has maintained in previous championship seasons. So if we're good, and if we're good, Pukki will be good, and vice versa. So I wouldn't say it's out of the question. And obviously he's going to sign a new contract, because I was totally wrong last week anyway, so it's a moot conversation, because I'll do it next season if he doesn't.
I'm not sure about that point.
No, we're being optimistic now.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that tone of voice. And just to say, entirely agree with everything Ryan said on that fourth goal, but the third goal as well, I don't even think he looked up. I watched it back again. I don't know how he knew Dal was there, other than, just kind of Pukki vision, where he just almost has eyes in the back of his head. And that third goal also had the brilliant moment of knowing, a couple of seconds where we're about to score before we even score, because Dal's just tapping it in, and I love those moments as well. That felt like a proper Farker goal.
We haven't really spoken. I was going to put Kieran Dowell in the things we're not going to talk about, so we haven't really spoken about Kieran Dowell now. Maybe we'll speak about him in future weeks. But I've always really liked him as a player. I think sometimes he hasn't quite done enough, and sometimes he's been let down around him. I don't think we've had a chance to see the best of him a lot of the time, certainly at this level. And I can't say why that is, because I don't follow him every minute of the day. But I was really delighted to see. I was delighted to see what he did on Saturday, but also I wasn't sitting there going, where's this been? Because it shouldn't be a question really that is there. As far as I'm concerned, he can really marry up nicely with some of those players when it's utilised in the right way. It won't work every week, I'm sure, because he wouldn't be at Norwich if it did. But
just on Dowell, I think part of the reason why he's maybe not liked as much is I was looking at when he scores for us, and I think he scored one goal. Obviously, I know this is not necessarily how football works, but he scored one goal that's made an active difference to the result, which was his free kick at Derby in the pandemic season. Other than that, there have either been games that we've won by more than one goal or lost. So I think it's one of those where when he's good when the going's good. And actually, I think Wagner referenced this post-match, where he talks about he actually really liked a tackle that Dowell made just before he got taken off. And that I thought was a really great comment, because I think if Dowell can add that to his game, then he will be contributing more for the team. And I actually think that will make his attack, the attacking part of his game, which we know is good, even better. So, it's another one, quite exciting to see what he can do over the next few weeks.
Well, go on, John.
Well, I just want to say, I've been looking at this. I was just thinking about that, where we are now and the period we've endured, this depressing period of football we've had. Like, we were top of the league. We were top. Apparently, we were top in September. For well, someone told me we were. Were we number one? Does anyone know, Steve? Were we actually top for a few minutes?
I didn't. I don't think Norwich have been top at the end of a day.
No,
so it might have been like for 5
might have
minutes
been
or
on
during
the
the
active things. But anyway, we were very near in September, and I booked some tickets to go and see us play at Sheffield United with a friend of mine. Well, my friend of mine offered me a ticket, so we went up there. And of course, that by the time we got there, we were both number 1 and 2, and we both slumped to like 3 and 4 by the time we even turned up, because we booked them like a week beforehand. And that was a match where we were 2-0 up, and somehow we threw it away, and it felt like the start of the mega slump. And now we're waking up and we're going, oh my God, I can't believe we're still in touch with the playoffs. How did that happen? Because we've literally been awful for as long as we can remember since then. But if you analyse the last 10 results, sure, I think it's the last 10 results, or it could be from that point. I can't remember exactly when I picked that up. We've had 9 losses by 1 goal. They've all been by 1 goal. There's only, the losses we've had this season, there's been 10. 9 of them have been by 1 goal. There's only 1 we lost 2-0 to Blackburn. So you're talking about those margins. It's not been by much. Like Steve was saying about Kieran Dowell that's not scored the winning goal. And we've kind of been waiting for that player to change the game. It's not like we've been battered. We've just been disappointing and not, a stupid defensive error or too many missed chances. It's been so frustrating, isn't it? It's been the finest margins of failure all the time.
We don't need to worry about it anymore, John. Don't need to worry about it anymore. The corner's turned.
I wish we'd have got those four goals like over 4 games, like 4 goals. A lot better.
Fair point. Well, I mean, I was going to say, I've got. Oh, go on, just one more, John.
One more thing, yeah. Where we are on the table now, assuming that we can overcome Blackburn and get in there, the top 6 teams in the league now are probably the top 6 teams you'd have put in division at the start of the league. We're very much. I was going to ask who was in the top 6 at the end of the pod. So as a teaser. So we'll get to that. But you're right, because I do want to talk about the table a little bit. But it's such a good point that you've already spoken about it, and that's why you're here, John. So that's fine. I was going to ask everyone how excited they were on the excitement scale, which is out of 100. But I'm not going to bother because it's quite clear we're all at 100. So let's just crack on, shall we? With the things we are not going to talk about. Still not going to sting.
Twangta.
Yes. Twangta.
Yeah.
Twangta.
We've got to
things
keep it going.
We are not going to talk about. I've spent all week practicing that. What we're not going to talk about, obviously, guys, come up with the things you don't want to talk about. I'm not going to talk about Barley Mumba scoring in injury time at Portman Road to peg back Ipswich. I mean, just brilliant. He scored against them twice this season, hasn't he? I mean, no wonder he's like a favourite. He might come back this month. I don't think it's very likely, personally, because I think they'd rather leave him there to crack on. And obviously, it's a shame that Sam Byram sounds like he's going to be injured for a few weeks as well now. So we'll see, I guess.
Is there not that we need to talk about those down the road, but is there a genuine chance they might not go up? I've been thinking this season that they will, but they are not.
So there is. I don't think there should be. Like, Ipswich should probably go up this year. The thing is, Sheffield Wednesday are like like a steam train at the moment. And Gareth Ainsworth, the Wickham boss, actually said he thinks that Sheffield Wednesday will win the division, and they're still quite a few points behind Plymouth. And I think there might be a point or so just ahead of Ipswich. It's really close, but it is basically 2 from those 3 to get the automatic places, I think. So
if that's the case, that goal could, if it's between Plymouth and Ipswich, be absolutely key in the automatic. Stating the bloody obvious, but it
both of them
will. It could be the goal that takes Plymouth up and keeps Ipswich down.
He helped settle the game at Home Park as well, so so that's pretty tidy work from Bali Mumba there. The other thing I didn't want to talk about was Todd Cantwell. No update that I'm aware of, but clearly we now know officially that Norwich are he'll probably go, and he's there to talk to other clubs to figure it out. Basically, could be a loan, I guess, and then a free agent, or it could be a deal now. We'll see. So I think it's been obviously heavily linked with Rangers, and then also PSV Eindhoven. So
I feel like PSV Eindhoven is so much more of a Todd kind of fit than he's played in the Netherlands already, right?
So definitely expected him to be linked with a team in Holland, because that seemed to make sense. I mean, PSV, the report stated that obviously PSV are looking for a Cody Gakpo replacement. So obviously the Todd Cantwell's the one who popped up on their recruitment, which I sound like I'm being really sarcastic here, and I'm not, but I don't really understand how that works as a sentence. I'm sorry. I love what Todd does, and I can see there's similarities in player, but I don't see I sound like a horrible man.
Isn't
shut up, but
isn't
they are
Ruud
chasing
van
the Dutch times.
Nistelrooy? Is Ruud van Nistelrooy the coach at PSV now? Is that who's in charge there now?
I think you're right. Yeah.
So I'd go there just for that. It'd be quite cool to be managed by.
That'd be amazing. And you know what? If Todd goes there and plays a key role and they win the title, it'd be like, what were you doing, Norwich? Anyway, that's not the tone, is it? That is not the tone tonight. Screw that. That's why we're not talking about Todd. Also, not going to talk about the January transfer window, but Tony Gary, friend of the podcast, obviously. Tony Gary. Tony Springett. He's on loan at Derby now for the rest of the season with Paul Warne. So he is in for an absolute treat. Go on the Derby, who are still hoping to catch the three above them, by the way. So maybe we should throw them in the automatic promotion mix from League One as well. Anyway, I've hogged that. Anyone else got anything they don't want to talk about?
I don't want to talk about the goalkeeper debate before Saturday, because I was one of the people who thought it was very, very strange that Tim Krul started the game. And I'm more than happy to be eating humble pie on that, because he made 2 excellent saves at 3-0, which they both go in 3-2, completely different game. I got to say, though, I think it is very harsh on Angus. I don't think he did a whole lot, if anything, wrong in that 16-game spell. And I think he was just very unfortunate that the whole team were pretty pants at that point. But I think he's one of the few players who came out of that run with a lot of credit, to be fair. One thing I will say on the debate is I agree with you for the most part, Michael, on your video verdicts that there's not a lot between Angus and Tim. But I think from a goalkeeping attribute standpoint, that's the case. But I do feel that Angus's distribution and the starting positions he tends to take up suit a high pressing team a bit better. So I was very surprised that Tim did start the game for those reasons alone. And there were a couple of hairy moments on Saturday with the distribution from Tim. And it's not always when a ball goes out of play, the way the distribution can be bad. It's when you sort of play it a yard the wrong side of your centre half, and it allows the opposition to get up a bit, which can be problematic. But
or just to a striker.
Exactly. Yeah. But you can't argue what he does bring, which is he's very loud, very vocal. He's got more experience than Angus, I guess, and that is going to help for the run in as well. But yeah, I mean, he proved us all wrong, didn't he? Clean sheet, 2 good saves.
Good. And we're not going to talk about it, obviously. The thing that surprised me, I always think head coaches, to a degree, would like to make their life easy for themselves. So the point that Angus, it seemed like set that, well, Tim's had a go to play. So now it's Angus's turn, and he hadn't really lost. So it seemed like a big call that he almost didn't have to make. And because I do think they're quite close, really, as goalkeepers, I don't know how different Saturday's result would have been had whoever was in goal. I don't think it would have been much different. So it's great. But I can imagine, like you say, Angus probably feels a bit hard done by. That's not to say Tim doesn't deserve to play either. And actually, you could argue Tim was pretty hard done by in losing his place in the first place, which I kind of remember saying myself. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. Angus is obviously younger. So you'd think maybe the long-term future is there anyway. So that's why I'm not a head coach, I suppose. But it was just interesting that he made that one of his points, because we look at it now. Tim Krul's is number one, isn't he? And that's who's going to play.
Well, I don't know, Michael. I think that we've had such a bad man manager in Dean Smith for the last year and a bit. Everyone's morale's gone down. And I think David Wagner might be the opposite. And I think we're lucky to have two really, really good keepers at this level in our team. And actually a good reserve keeper in Michael McGovern as well, who's always done pretty well when he's come in. And this is our best department in the club. I think we can agree on that. And goalkeeping. Do you not think so? In terms of the overall...
In terms of
like
depth,
I like it.
It is.
And so I think that for the manager, it's more of a man management exercise. Like he could pick either of them; they're both good. I guess you've got to read it that way. That's what I'd have thought.
I didn't know when you said departments whether we were talking about on or off the pitch.
No,
Norwich's graphics department is awesome. But goalkeeping is great too. So swings and roundabouts.
I think that with Todd, I can't see Todd rocking up at Celtic Park and Rangers getting booed off the pitch and him taking it very well.
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
That, John.
Yeah,
I cannot believe you said that.
Yeah, can you imagine that after an Old Firm defeat at Ibrox, he's not going to want to go on the Twitter message boards.
You guys
blind
are so
points.
Cynical.
Yeah, tackling.
But there is something I did want to talk about, Michael, which was, when's the last time we had a decent English manager?
What are there any? That's the bigger question.
Really have to go back a long way.
Mike Walker?
It was Mike Walker. Then he wasn't. He was Welsh.
Welsh.
I suddenly remembered he was Welsh. So when was it?
Was he the last English manager though? When was the last English manager that we had?
Roda.
No,
Hughton's Irish. Roda. No, Neil Adams.
Neil Adams.
No.
There's a few. I just forgot them all.
Neil Adams.
Yeah,
Roda.
point taken.
When's the last good one we had? Is it like back to Ron Saunders or
Dave Stringer and Mike Walker will take.
Oh yeah, Stringer. Yeah.
Mike Walker's not English. He's Welsh.
Oh, he's Welsh. Sorry, Mike. Easy mistake to make. As Stuart Webber would attest.
Can I just quickly take it back to the goalkeeper thing? Because first of all, I saw a lot of the Twitter kind of meltdown comments after we'd won 4-0, which I found absolutely hilarious. Like, what the hell is he doing? What a ridiculous decision for 4-0 win. But we did touch on, I think you mentioned it last week, Michael, about the respective records and whether this has anything to do with Angus or Tim being in goal. I do not know, but they are quite well, I have a low bar for this sort of thing, but I think they're quite interesting. They played exactly the same number. So we played 30 games this season, which seems like a lot, but they've both played 15 each. And Angus's record is 1-4, drawn 3, lost 8. And Tim's record is 1-8, drawn 3, lost 4. So completely opposite. Tim's conceded 14 and Angus has conceded 20. So, we did say it last week. How much can you put on those records when they have a limited impact? But that's quite a swing there. I would.
You're
suggest.
right. I think we at the Athletic probably try and steer clear of them a little bit, because you can't put a whole team's performance down to one player being in or out. But that's effectively what you're doing. It's incredibly difficult. But there are obviously all the softer issues that come around that. So you can't really ignore it either. Like the Emi Buendia statistic may have been a complete quirk in just the games that he missed. But I watched Norwich and they looked completely so much less functional without Emi in the team, both defensively and creativity wise. So it's a really hard one. I still think there's not much between the two goalkeepers. But you look at that record and you think, wow, it's a lot to be a coincidence, isn't it?
But it's weird, isn't it? Because I think if you asked most Norwich fans who has had the better season out of those two, they would say Angus Gunn. And yet the results when we've played Angus have been worse. So I guess that's why you can't really split them at the moment.
Like all of football, there's no right answer. That's why we talk about it all the time, incessantly. I've worked through my list. Anything else anyone does want to talk about? Any more twangta?
just that was the must-good performance that the fans were looking for. I think and that we've had the first sighting of the Wagner. I can't even say it, the Wagner monster. We've had the first sighting. I just want to get all of Dan's lines from just call back after call back.
So where did this originate?
It was because are we going to be Wagner or Wag yes? And then Dan said Wagness because he couldn't get his words out properly. At which point the Wagner monster was invented.
So did we last week's podcast? We said the words Wagness monster. Did we?
Yes.
I've literally blanked that out of my mind.
Is that a problem? You're saying it like it might be a problem.
I'm more worried about my memory that I literally blanked that. Maybe I just spoke over someone as I do tend to do sometimes.
Let's be honest, yes, the whole thing was a blur last week.
Wagness monster, amazing. Well, let's make that the podcast title this week.
The Wagness monster.
Right. Well, in that case, any questions or topics? We're only 45 minutes in.
Yeah. We're going to keep this under an hour, aren't we? Well, first of all, I forget how amazing people are that watch this. But we have located the year of the shirt. It's 1996 to 1997 Borussia Dortmund away kit. Daniel Whiting said that, and I think somebody else. Apologies if I didn't also get your name. And if you're listening, you can then Google it and picture Michael in all this resplendent glory.
Clearly, I should have just checked with Zeke before I went on. Before we did this, I'm now going to take a picture of myself in the shirt because obviously people who are listening. So I'm waving. Everyone's going to wave on there, and then people will be able to see. There you go. That's exciting. But that's just bringing it all together, you see, in all the forms. So that'll be on Instagram and social.
There you go.
Stuff, Twitter. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Michael, I thought of something else to talk about.
Oh my gosh! Well, wait, hold on to it for a second, John. Hold on to it for a second.
I will just add the final word on the shirt. It looks like Michael's ready for the 2:30 at Haydock Park, which there's a definite jockey. Definitely jockey look there.
It's also a bit too small for me. That's right.
That must be why you look like you're ready for the Haydock. Sorry, John.
Oh no! Just you said you didn't want to talk about the transfer window, but Formula Wing is really good. It's really good for people who might be thinking of leaving to think, oh, maybe I'll stay a bit longer. I think we really needed it because it always worries me when we got a transfer window and we're in awful form and some of our good players are being tempted away. And I think that the other thing which crossed my mind, and it's probably been spoken a number of times, but I was thinking about the disconnect between this football director and the coach. And the recruitment, we haven't been recruiting the right players for the team shape, for the coach. And if we get any, I really hope that some input comes from David Wagner to say, these are the players we need. It seems like we're picking guys who are good investments rather than actually what we need to make the team better now. When we lost Emmy and Ollie Skip and Alex Tetty all on the same day and replaced none of them. I mean,
now
it doesn't genius to work out the type of player you need to be recruiting, does it?
I think that's really interesting. I would counter that to say that I'm pretty confident that the head coach, whoever it is at the time, has a real opportunity to input what they want. Whether they always take that input, I think might be a slightly different question, but they certainly, because no one wants to recruit a player that the head coach won't play. So I think that does factor into it. What I would say is Norwich have not really signed anyone. They've done such little business over the course of 2 or 3 windows, which is kind of why I look at the squad at the moment, which I did again the other day. A couple of players have gone out on loan now and whichever. I look at the first time of the squad and I wince because there are a lot of players that are coming out of contract and it's like, big portions of the squad. And I would be lying if I didn't watch Kieran Dow playing so well on Saturday and just think it's out of contract in July. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. That's not.
And also, I think the next few weeks, now would be a ridiculous time for them to sign a new contract anyway. Wagner needs to work out who he wants to keep, and if the going's good in the next few weeks, players will want to sign new deals. So I think you'd like to think in a couple of months' time that's going to look a little bit different.
But you also, John, I think you made a great point, because ultimately David Wagner is now a manager who is going to look at Dimi Yanulis and Max Aarons and go, oh, great, these guys fit me perfectly. And I think Dean Smith looked at them both and went, certainly Dimi. I mean, he clearly had no trust in Dimi from what I could tell. So there we go. Any more comments, questions?
Well, Simon Duarte said exactly that. We know Aarons will thrive under Wagner style, but so should Yanulis. So, we're all on the same page on that one. And then
fist pumps from me today. The listeners won't have seen.
You are pumped today. And
pumped.
then
this
this
like
one
the best
doesn't
Monday
mean
of my life.
This doesn't mean much to me, but I'm hoping that it will to John. Can John give us a rendition of goal-scoring superstar hero in honor of Teemu Pukki? So first of all, John, what is goal-scoring superstar hero?
It's a song that was on the cover of Sensible World of Soccer.
Greatest game of all time.
I can actually pick my guitar up, which is behind me.
Yeah, I just happen to have my guitar.
You want that?
Can we end the pod with it? Can we end the pod?
That's a great idea.
Discreetly disappear for like 30 seconds.
That's fine. I'll give you the 30 seconds, John.
Come back, and then
you're
going to
do it.
Okay? I'm going to disappear now.
We know that. We're not ending the pod yet, John. We've got hours to go yet. But it's okay. You get the guitar ready.
Hours?
Well, not hours. No, hopefully not.
Okay,
we're definitely going to end the pod.
I just need to quietly remember the chords. They're not many, but I need to.
Oh, okay. Well, you just rehearse. That's fine. Any more comments and questions, Steve? Well, John rehearses for the next 20 minutes.
I mean, maybe now's a good time for Motti. I don't know. I don't want to tell you the running.
Yes, no, you're probably right. Let's go on to Motti. It's the quickest thing out there, though. That's the best.
This is almost fantasy football.
Do you see how quick that was? No one can rehearse anything in that time. This is almost fantasy football. Coventry away is this weekend. It's a 12:30 kickoff, everyone, on Saturday. That's because it's on Sky. And I mean, that would have been a joke 2 weeks ago, but not in the
Sky.
place we're in.
Yeah.
I'm guessing so. It must be. It is on telly, isn't it?
Gotta be.
Why else would it be? Okay, I don't know. So that's exciting. It may be the last game for a fortnight. Norwich are due to play Birmingham at home the following weekend, but Birmingham play at Forest Green Rovers Tuesday night in the FA Cup third round. The original tie was postponed. Can't remember why. So obviously, if Birmingham win and they reach the FA Cup fourth round, they will play instead of Norwich that game. So Norwich have a free weekend. If not, they'll play Birmingham at home. I don't know what we want to happen there, but all's good either way.
We want that game, don't we? We want to see
get it out of the way.
Norwich. I think so. Yeah.
Come on the Forest Green.
Come on,
Rovers.
Forest Green.
Playing in similar colours to what I'm sat in this evening. I've managed to just knock on my script. That's not very helpful by accident. Coventry, they only lost 1-0 at Burnley at the weekend due to a late goal. It's a good test, and they've got a good record at home, actually, Coventry. Norwich have got a good away record. Terrible at home, but they, Steve, have been good away from home.
Yeah, we've won 3 of our last 4 away from home, which I sort of couldn't quite believe.
So what you're saying is Dean Smith only got sacked because of the one defeat out of don't worry.
I can't believe.
I can't make that work.
How did he get sacked? It seems so unfair. I think. I mean, actually, I was going to say this should be a tougher test. Another thing I couldn't believe is Preston were above us when we played them on Saturday, and they're now 6 places below us.
Just on that point. So Ryan Lowe post match, he sort of didn't blame it on the shape. Just said the performance was unacceptable. He sort of said, "Oh, Norwich should be third. They shouldn't be where they are. They've obviously turned it on for a new manager." Blah blah blah. We did all this stuff. We worked on it all week. We thought it would work, but Norwich have shown up, and that's it. They've got good players, but they sort of tried to watch some of Wagner's other games and things, but it did seem a bit like they just sort of rocked up, tried to do something, and didn't really know whether it was going to work or not, and then it didn't. I just thought they almost like we're better than them in the table, so we should all be all right. That was just the whole air of it all, really.
I guess part of it is that how do you prepare for a game like that when you know the team are going to be completely different to how they've been for the rest of the season? Because I think we all expected that they were going to, the shape was going to be different, the threats on the pitch, the areas of threat on the pitch were going to be different, the lineup was different. So I guess that is difficult to prepare for, and that I suppose brings us on to how Saturday is going to be more of a challenge, because Coventry will have looked at the way we played and gone, right, we're not going to give Kenny McLean that kind of space. We're not going to play with a ridiculously high line, which will allow Tammy Pukki to get in behind. And as you say, Michael, they're good at home. So I actually thought they weren't terrible in what was our previous biggest win of the season when we beat them 3-0. And
I'm glad you said that.
We were kind of 2-0 up for quite a long, there was that really weird second half period where there was a lull. We were pretty bad for half an hour, but nothing happened. And also Victor Gyökeres, who is one of the best strikers in the championship, did not play that day and will be on Saturday, and he will be tough to stop.
Yeah, he came on. I think they had some sort of argument in the squad.
Yeah,
or
I think
something.
Huck said that, didn't he?
And then he came on for like the last 5 minutes, and they were actually pretty good in that period when he was on the pitch. Yeah, you're interested because that was still the period where Coventry hadn't played a home game, so they were absolutely screwed.
That's right.
About 5 games behind, so they were still really catching up. And I thought with all the context that they weren't as bad as people made out. Whereas I think we had Hux on, or maybe Hux said it, or maybe he said it on Twitter. I can't remember. Sorry, Hux, but he was like, "Whoa, Coventry." So we will see. Mark Robins a little bit unlucky not to be considered for the Norwich job, Ryan.
I think the fact he wasn't considered wasn't anything down to him, more so that Norwich couldn't afford the compensation for him and his team, because I would imagine it would have taken a lot for him to move from Coventry to here. But a few weeks ago, just as the West Brom resurgence kind of happened, Coventry were my pick of the dark horses to finish in the top 6 this year. I think they are one of the teams who does go under the radar regularly. And as Steve said, Gyökeres is one of the best players in the Championship. And I know they lost in the FA Cup. Was it they 4-3 to Wrexham the other Saturday? Great game, by the way.
This is the problem with quizzes. I was going to ask everyone what happened to Coventry in their previous home game. They did.
But
lose 4-3.
I don't think you can look a lot into that, and I do think they are going to be, albeit it's only three games into Wagner's tenure, but this is really like a good test of where Norwich are at this point, because they will have a game plan. As Steve said, they will have watched all the 90 minutes on Saturday, and they'll know what Norwich are about for sure.
Gyökeres has scored more goals than Tammy Pukki this season. It's on 12.
Yeah, me and my bet are aware of that.
Oh yeah, good point. Well, long way to go. Coventry do have I think it might be. Might be their first championship game, maybe at home under their new ownership, officially confirmed. I think I'm not quite sure on that. Is it Doug King? I think it is, who is from Lowestoft and
Really?
was a boyhood Norwich fan, apparently, according to something I read on Pinken.
What does he make his? How did he make his fortune then? Do we know?
Oh, I can't remember. I haven't
written.
That's it. Well done, John. Walnuts.
Doug King Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts. That is the best line of the pod. Yeah, excellent.
Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, I'm just trying to work out if I'll be able to get that into my video verdict. Yeah, so there we go. He's from Lowestoft and he chose Norwich over Ipswich, which is good because obviously that story wouldn't be as interesting if he'd chosen Ipswich. Yeah. So that's how that goes. We're obviously Norwich are now the hunter rather than the hunted, which we're all very much enjoying as we're pumped. Don't let the energy drop. Oh, it's quite tiring, isn't it? It's like a high press. This I'm sort of 58 minutes in. I'm waning a bit.
We've still got another 19 games of this to go.
We've got a sub. We've got so someone who can just come on and play. It's a lot of it. I've been so used to just sort of walking around for the entire pod record, just not bothering. And now I've got unnecessary joke. Unnecessary. It's only a joke. It's just humor. It's fine. Yes, enjoy being the hunter. Norwich are 7th. We know who's above them. John, you're all over that. You were going to bring it up earlier.
Yeah, so we got obviously Burnley miles away, probably already almost all but up already. Sheffield United have got a not wobble, and then we've got, I think it's Watford next, West Brom, Borough, Blackburn, or maybe Blackburn then Borough, West Brom, Blackburn, Borough, something like that, and then us. Yes. But they're all the teams are within a win of us. We're kind of like within a win of all of them. So, and they're the guys who we'd exactly expect to be around. They're all the guys traditionally kind of on our level. We're now all in the mix together. Really, it's pretty much what the bookies would have predicted is where we are. And the bookies predict us to finish 6th, by the way,
at the moment,
and to make the play. Yeah, we're the bookies, so we're going to make the playoffs.
Who have they got to drop out?
Blackburn. And the other thing is to remember is whenever we've been in the playoffs, we've at least got to the final in our history. So we're pretty good in these playoffs. It's looking quite positive to reach the final, I think, right now.
Well, if we don't manage to get 96 points, then that is obviously a pretty decent backup. You're right. With all the notes, but not quite the right order. It's Burnley, then Sheffield United. You're right; they are miles ahead in terms of a top two, and then it's Watford, Middlesbrough, Blackburn, and West Brom. I think. And then Norwich, obviously. But it is, yeah, you're right. It's really close. I mean, I look at the table at the moment and think, well, within a couple of games, Norwich could easily be third, and that's probably where they should be. Just getting completely carried away for myself. I did take a little screen grab during the game on Saturday of the league table because I thought, well, this could be handy when we get to like April the 17th. Look at how far they've come, that sort of stuff. So that would be good. I mean, I also got a bit depressed that the top two are so far ahead, but that's a debate for another day.
The thing is, if we finish, I was thinking about this the other day, as long as we finish fifth, we avoid the team that's third. Who in theory are the next best team after those two. So, whether we finish fifth or fourth would make no difference. But if you're sixth, if a team has really good form and ends up third, say if Borough or West Brom or Watford go on a spree and they're quite dangerous, you just need to get to fifth to be in a relatively good position here.
Love it. And again, I remember looking at the table. I don't know. Didn't feel like that long ago. Certainly pre-World Cup. And Middlesbrough and West Brom were like 20th and 16th. I think I wrote it in one of my pieces. I remember looking at that table thinking, I still think those two teams can finish above Norwich. And they are currently above Norwich in the table. I mean, Norwich have now made their change. So that obviously makes it interesting. But yeah, so there we go. Well, exciting to look at the table. Hadn't done that in weeks. So it's just nice to look at it, really, to be honest. Great. Any more comments or questions as we head into Kenny Other Business? Obviously, we'll just backheel Kenny Other Business into this podcast.
Well, I know we've got
That's how we do it. I'm not going to swear.
We've got a quiz and still got a quiz and some live music to come at the On the Ball pub. So I won't put any more questions out there. But and speaking of pubs, actually. Sam W says, anyone playing the On the Ball drinking game, down your glass, as Michael has mentioned, players out of contract at the end of the year, which I quite like that. Maybe we ought to come up with an On the Ball drinking game. Michael mentioning players out of contract, Michael plugging athletic pieces, me coming up with a ridiculous take that I then have to retract.
That would be good. It would be good.
Yeah, so if anyone else has got any more ideas for what we can incorporate into the On the Ball drinking game.
Sam W, does the W stand for Weber? Is it just Stuart? I've asked my question. Well. It's just a point, isn't it? I haven't mentioned it as many times tonight as 96 points.
Yeah, that could be another one. It's the new 100 points, 100 goals, isn't it? And then Lee Widdett says, enjoying the pod as usual, lads. Sensible soccer was how I misspent my teenage years. So many thanks, John. My early shout for phrase of the year 2023 is must good performance. That could be another one for the drinking game. Must good performance.
I love the must good performance.
Yeah, we've had some great comments.
Get
so thanks again to everyone.
Absolutely, Steve. Thank you for going through them, and thanks everyone. Same again next week. Reminds me of another phrase which tends to stick with us, which is when Dan Brigham mentioned Norwich's famous England World Cup winning midfielder Ian Peters. So, and that was, I think, during a Ryan Livermore quiz, if I'm not mistaken, which brings us on incredibly nicely to Ryan Quiz Claxon. It's over to you, Ryan.
Hello, everyone. So, over the space of 7 days, we had David Wagner's first game as Norwich City manager and his first win. So I thought we would do a little quiz that was based on former Norwich City permanent manager or head coaches' first games or first wins in charge. Now, the format is very simple. You have 1 minute to answer up to 8 questions.
Oh, this is great.
Wow. And it's 1 point per question. If you get all 8 questions, you get an extra 2 points, so it's a possible score of 10. You can pass a question. We'll just go round and back to it at the end. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Super duper.
Yeah.
So I need you to pick a number at random, Michael Bailey, at between 1 and 7.
6.
6. Oh, okay. You've got an easy-ish one. I'm going to ask you 8 questions on Dean Smith. Are we
okay.
ready? Your time
Who?
starts. Your time starts now. Who was Dean Smith's first game against?
Southampton.
What was the score?
2-1.
Who scored the winning goal?
Grant Hanley.
Who assisted the goal?
Milot Rashica?
No.
Pass.
Who did the win lift Norwich above in the table on the day?
Newcastle?
Correct. How many games had Norwich won before that day?
1.
Correct. How many games did they win after?
1? No.
No.
None.
Pass. I'll come back to that.
Pass. How many
Is anyone
points did
timing it?
Yeah, I'm timing it. How many
Good.
points did Norwich finish with that season?
26.
Wrong, I'm afraid.
Okay.
So we're going to go back to the other
27.
question. No, wrong. Who assisted the goal? Who assisted Grant Hanley's goal?
It was a corner. So whoever took the corner. Billy Gilmore.
Correct.
Go.
How many games did Norwich win after that? You got 3
5.
seconds.
Oh, after that, 3.
Correct. And the time is up. Well done, Michael Bailey. That is an impressive
Very good.
7 out of 8.
And then the other one was how many points?
22.
You
were
even
very
had time.
optimistic.
You
was
even had time
20
to fit
26.
in a joke about the number of games they won after. So it's hugely
Exactly.
impressive.
20. You know what I named? How many defeats? I think it was like 26 or 27 defeats.
Yes, I believe you're
Oh.
correct on that front.
It's
well done,
hard.
Michael.
So many defeats, so few points. It's very difficult to
It's
understand.
true. It's very true.
Thank
Very
you.
good
Good
score, though.
questions.
7 out of 8. Okay.
Yeah, but
Let's
I
go
literally
with...
got the most recent set, didn't I? So I'm a bit jammy there. Carry on.
Okay, John, we'll go with you next, sir.
I'm a bit
pick number.
intimidated by Michael's performance there. I'll be lucky if I get 1, honestly. These kind of far away, man.
Okay, so I need you to pick a number between 1 and 7 that is not 6, please.
4, please.
Number 4. Oh, you have the gentleman before that, Mr. Daniel Farker.
Okay.
Hey.
Super duper. Okay, John, your time starts now. Who was Daniel Farker's first win against?
Birmingham.
Incorrect.
Doesn't surprise me.
Okay. I'll give you a clue. It wasn't in the league.
Southampton.
Incorrect.
Don't know. Pass.
Don't know. Pass. Okay. Okay. What
can pass,
competition?
right?
You can pass. Yeah. What competition was the game in?
FA Cup.
Incorrect.
League Cup.
Correct.
Wasn't
okay,
Europe. I know that much.
What season was the game in?
Oh my God. We went up in 1918. It was 17, 18.
Correct. Who knocked Norwich out of the EFL Cup that year?
Tottenham.
Incorrect. You're very close though.
Arsenal.
Correct. How many Germans were in the starting lineup that day?
4.
Your time is up. You've got an impressive 3, to be fair. It was not a hard question there.
How many Germans were there?
So for the aforementioned game, for the
Yeah.
record, it was against Swindon Town
Okay.
in the Carabao Cup. Norwich won 3-2, and there were 2 Germans in the lineup that day.
It's not many.
Christoph Zimmermann and Marcel Franke. The other questions were going to be who was captain that day. It was Wes Hoolahan. And name one of the goal scorers. You could have had one of Cameron Jerome, Wes Hoolahan, or James Madison.
Okay.
Wow.
That was
Happy
harder
with
than
my
my
3?
set.
Wasn't
That
it?
was harder than
However,
my
you did get
set.
3. And do you know what? 3 is actually pretty good because that's the most obscure of all the answers, in my opinion. Because everyone, I think, assumes that it was QPR, the first win under Daniel Farker, but it was in fact Swindon.
I did have I had QPR in my head. So pray for Steve then.
Come on,
Steve, pick a number between
Bob.
1 and 7 that is not 4 or 6, please.
Let's have the other even number and go to.
Number 2. Oh, okay. You have Mr. Paul Lambert.
Oh,
that's-
okay.
We've had a good
Okay.
3 here.
Yeah, we have had a good 3.
Okay.
Considering what we could
Who
have.
are, hang on. Who are the other ones out of interest, Ryan?
Going back, we have Brian Gunn, Chris Hutton, and Neil Adams as well. were the
Yeah,
other.
I think you'd take that, Steve.
Gunn's first game was pretty memorable, to be fair, wasn't it?
Eight
well,
questions on his first
Name
game.
the goal scorers on the other side.
Well, no, you joke about that. The answer, because we're not going to get to it now, is actually Southampton was his first game, wasn't it? Because he was caretaker
Oh, yeah.
against Barnsley and then was appointed a day later or whatever it was.
Okay, well, I'm glad.
I don't know if I'd have agreed with that.
Oh,
Not
yes.
part of
No
the quiz.
way.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
We're arguing over quiz. It's not happening.
Anyway, carry on. Sorry, carry on.
Anyway, okay, Steve,
God.
you have 1 minute starting
Yeah.
now. Who was Paul Lambert's first game against as Norwich manager?
Is it Wickham?
Correct. What was the score in that game?
5-2.
Correct. Who was captain for the game?
Holt?
Correct. Who scored the first goal of Paul Lambert's tenure?
Oh my God. Corey Smith?
Incorrect.
Holt.
Correct. Who scored their first goal for the club in that game?
Askew.
No, incorrect.
Smith.
Correct. Which Canary made their second debut for the club in that game?
Second debut. Oh, not cute. No.
Oh,
Second
yeah.
debut. Pass. I'll come back to it if I've got to.
What season was the game in?
2009-10.
Correct. And where did Norwich finish that season?
They finished top.
Absolutely. Which Canary made their second debut for the club in that game?
McVeigh.
Yes, correct. Well done, Steve.
Oh.
Clean sweep with 5 seconds
Wow.
left. Well done.
Well
And you get the 2 bonus points, meaning you are tonight's winner with 10 out of 10. Well done, Steve.
Well, he's not the number wang chief for nothing.
Exactly. That was a must good performance from Steve.
Was a very must
Thank you.
good performance. Oh, Ryan, thank you so much for going to all the trouble and doing that.
great-
That was a
great stuff,
fantastic.
Ryan.
The best
Thank you
yet.
very much.
Your best
Really
yet.
fun.
Fitting
Thank
in
you.
with the whole theme of this podcast of best.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I don't want it to end because
Oh.
what happens at the end?
What happens?
Oh.
John's song.
Oh yeah, no, John's song. Oh my gosh,
You're not giving him the big build up here.
I forgot about it.
There's
I'm all-
a slight catch with this song because one of the lyrics is because it's about Timu, right? It's for Timu, if you remember.
Mhm.
And one of the lyrics is "You let your hair down and play to the fans." But of course, Timu hasn't got any hair. So I'm
Beard?
going to change the lyrics. You let your beard down and play
Yeah.
to the fans.
You know, we're all on the same page there.
Tell me when you
Right.
want, Michael, and I'll do
Uh,
a verse or
you
two. Should I
get-
do a verse or 2 verses, or where should I stop?
One. Well,
One
I feel under pressure now.
Don't worry,
one
I'll
verse
do it.
is
And you
fine.
can wave at me. You can wave at me or do that when you want.
We'll get. Yeah, one verse and we'll start applauding. You get yourself ready. But John, thank you so much
I'm
for
ready.
joining us.
I'm ready. Fun. Lots
Thank
of
you
fun.
so much for joining us. Absolute
Yes.
star. We'll do this again and you might get asked to do more songs again. That is it for another On the Ball. The Norwich City podcaster has opted against making a Wagner music joke at this point, but we've got John to do music, so it's all the better. If you're yet to do so, make sure you subscribe via your podcast player of choice. The pod is available free for everyone on your usual player, and we stream the recording of the podcast live in video form on my social media channels each Monday evening. Have a search, and I'm sure you'll find them, and then you'll have the best Monday of your life ever. Ratings and reviews, wherever prompted, are always hugely appreciated. And if you want to get in touch with any questions or topic proposals, just sling me a direct message on Twitter. Michael J. Bailey is the handle. As for this evening, a big thank you to our guest tonight, John, who's just going to play us out. Someone's going to play us out on the podcast. It's amazing. Thank you, John, for being awesome. Ryan, you're a legend. Thank you so much for the quiz and all your words.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Steve, top work as ever, quiz winner and generally brilliant person. Thank you so much.
Yeah, cheers, Michael. I'm going off to buy a trombone for next week's pod.
Come on.
Yes, which I'm not on, am I? I'm
I
hosting
know.
the mental health awareness evening for Norwich City Fan Social Club next
Oh
Monday
yeah,
night.
scratch the trombone
So-
then if I'm hosting.
so-
I've got too much
Well, it'll be on Steve. If there's no trombone, that's his own fault.
No,
I
we're
won't
gonna
be
have
here. I'll
to.
leave you-
We've set the standard now. We're gonna have to be played out by some kind of music. So I'll give that some thought.
Also, it means
In a minute.
that means I have no recriminations from this week's podcast. So obviously, I just hope that it all continues like this forever. 96 points. We'll be back on Monday for the next thrilling installment, all on Steve, of the On the Ball Norwich City podcast. Until then, never mind the danger, and then please do enjoy Jon Hare singing his masterpiece, which is Goal. What was it? What's the title again?
Well,
Goal-
it's from Sensible World of Soccer, which is a very old football game. Believe it or not, 29 years ago it was released.
Iconic
Yes.
masterpiece.
And here we go, goal scoring superstar hero. So thanks for the request, and let's go. You're a goal scoring superstar hero. You let your hair down and play with the fans. You're a goal scoring superstar hero, and every goal best in the land. Goal scoring superstar hero. You're a goal scoring superstar hero. Goal scoring superstar hero. You're a goal scoring superstar hero.
Yeah.
There we go.
Legendary. Gary, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Well, that was an exceptional end to an exceptional podcast.
That was fun.
Thank you all.
There's a clapping bit in the song, so I could have got you guys to go.
John, you'll have to do it again. Don't worry. We are still live, just before anyone deems that we're not live and starts saying anything raucous, because that obviously never happens when we go off air. But thank you to everyone watching the live recording. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. That was fun. These guys are brilliant. And well, we'll see you as a collective podcast next Monday, I think, if we do it live. Do you want to stream it live next week, Steve?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, all right. There you go.
We've managed to get someone play the guitar on this show. I'm sure I can manage to, do a live.
The trombone out. Let's get the trombone out.
Get the trombone out. Yeah, if that doesn't happen, we'll all be disappointed.
We can get the drummer from the ground. We didn't speak about him. Have you spoken about him yet?
No.
The new drummer.
No, he's on trial, so and not like as in law.
No, he needs to be on trial. Honestly,
he's doing in the Hague next week.
There was no drummer. There was no City Elite put out a tweet saying there was no drummer at the Blackburn FA Cup game because, well, I'll paraphrase, but I think they're on holiday having a good time in the Alps. So when they come back, we're one for next week maybe. Anyway, we've kept people long enough, so I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Yes. Everyone's going to wave because that's what you have to do. And we'll see you next week. Bye.